Hi, everybody. Guess what? We're back. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you all to Ammoye. Hi, Ammoye.
Hello. Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
It, it is just so fabulous to be able to have this time, to have this chat. And could you tell everybody where in the world you are?
I love that. I'm in Toronto, Canada, downtown Toronto, Canada.
And how are things there at the moment?
Actually, we've been on a stay-at-home order.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, yeah. Even though the rebel in me, I still go on and about. But we've been on this stay-at-home order, and it's supposed to be lifting on Friday, which is tomorrow.
That's great. So, how long has that been going on for?
It's been going on since January.
Oh, wow. Seriously, that long?
Yeah.
So, what happens with work?
Oh, well, for me, because I'm a musician, a lot of my music and the work that I've been doing is over Zoom like this, or I have a my engineer and producer has a home studio, so I'm able to go to that home studio and work from there. I was just recently nominated for a Juno award, and what they did was they had a private room, if you will, or event space only for certain people that were um, tested negative for COVID, and were able to be in that space. So it's very limited numbers of people that can gather together, as long as they're in that small space together.
Wow.
So that's how we've
Wow.
been doing it. Yeah.
So, there are many people all over the world in that same position at the moment. And
hmm
I just think shout out to all those people that have hung in there. And
Yeah,
I'm sure it's soon going to turn the corner.
I believe so too. I
Yes, so
believe so
let's
too.
let's keep it positive. Now,
Absolutely.
I want to know all about you so
hmm
that the audience can know all about you, how we even met, what led you to your spiritual development, where you grew up, everything.
I know it's a long story, but I'll do my best. I'll do my best to tell it. Well, I am originally Jamaican. I was born and raised in Jamaica, raised by my grandparents, my beautiful grandmother and Hazel Russell and a husband, Lloyd Russell. We grew up in a little village, a little ghetto village in Clarendon, Jamaica, and they were strict Christians. My mom came to Canada when I was about 6 years old, and left me and my siblings, my sister and my brother at the time, to be raised by our grandparents. She and my dad were going through some um, issues at the time. My dad was an alcoholic back then and very abusive towards her, never to us, but towards her. And to get away from him, she left Jamaica to come to Toronto, and we were left with my grandmother, who I really call my mom because I spent so many years with her. I had more of a bond, a motherly bond with my grandmother. It just worked out that way. My mom lives here in Canada. I came here to live in Canada after my grandmother passed when I was about 16, and then I came to Canada, and I've been living here. I lived with my mom for a little bit, and then went on my own. But my grandmother, the years with my grandmother really introduced me to the church. I grew up in the church. They were, like I said, they were strict Christians. So we were at church every Sunday, every Friday, every Wednesday. And then on Saturday, we were cleaning the church because they were the housekeepers for the church, if you will, the custodians of the church. So I was always in church. And at that time, I loved it. Absolutely loved it because that's where my musicality, I was introduced again to music through church as well. My grandfather played the banjo, he played the harmonica, he played the guitar. And whenever you see my grandfather when he was sitting on the veranda, we call it now the patio or the balcony. On the veranda, he'd just be if he didn't have the instruments around him, he's just tapping his fingers on things and making music with his fingers. I was always surrounded with music, and my grandmother was always humming songs whenever she was doing chores around the house. Always, so there was always music around me, and she had us in the church choir. Also, we got the opportunity to learn harmonies, be in singing classes, and so that was my upbringing. And she didn't allow us to listen to the radio too often because she called that music, it wasn't godly, music. So she was very strict about what we listened to on the radio. And I would sneak and listen to different genres of music, reggae especially, because Jamaica is so well known for reggae music. And this is why I'm singing reggae right now. Bob Marley was a big influence on me. She only allowed us to listen to Bob Marley when it was not gospel music. And because of his writing, it was so, you can relate to that music. Even today, that music still relates to so many different things that we're experiencing right now, especially right now. And so that hit a chord with me. I wanted to also write music that would uplift and inspire and motivate people. Because as a young child, I always knew, even going to church, I always knew there was more. There was more. I didn't believe in this concept of hell, that we would, when we died, we would go to this place that God would have us burn for eternity. I didn't, if we didn't do the right things. I just didn't feel like truth to me. So I always knew there was more. I respected the religion because that's, and my grandmother and their beliefs, and I grew up believing some of it. And when she passed, that changed a lot for me. I felt like that was one of the awakenings for me, because I had a dream. I was so distraught when she passed. After she left, I didn't have the protection of my grandmother like I did when she was alive. And so I ended up being put into situations where I myself was abused sexually and such. And so how do I say? I feel like that those experiences gave me a different look on life and trusting people and more so going within myself, and then finding that connection with spirit on my own, instead of being taught that this is how you're supposed to do it and this is what you should be doing. And after she passed and I experienced those things, I had to go within myself. Somehow it led me within myself. I remember after one of those experiences, a situation that happened to me, I went into the bathroom at my grandmother's house because now I was living with my aunt, still living with my aunt at that time before I came here. And I went into the bathroom and I filled up the tub with water, and I was ready to say, I'm done with this experience of being, because I felt it was so traumatic for me going through those things. And so I filled up the bathtub. I went into the bathtub. I went down into the water. And this time I was in my teenage years. So I was still very young and impressionable. And so I went into the water, went down under the water, and I said to myself, I'm ready to go. And God, I'm ready to go. If you're listening to me, I'm ready to go. And something happened where I heard, this was my first time experiencing that voice within me, actually feeling like I could hear it, like I was attuned to it. Somehow something turned on. And I heard this voice say to me, you're going to be okay. You're not alone. Everything is going to be okay. And I felt in that moment that, okay, so there's more happening here. It's not just this experience. There's something else there's something else out here that is with me and making me feel that it's safe to continue this life. And ever since then, I've had this connection with, I call it spirit. Some people call it God. Some people call it source. Some people call it love. I call it spirit. And that was my first relationship intimately with spirit. And it's grown more so over the years. And that was when I felt like, how do I say? I just felt like, me as a human, I was here for a purpose. There was more to for my being here, and it's led me to this point. After that situation, I when she passed, too, right before I was telling you this story, and then I jumped over to this. So I'll jump back a little bit. She dreamt me because I was so distraught when she passed, and I thought everything was going to end now. What would life be like without my grandmother? Because she was a cornerstone for that family. My family is huge. She had 13 kids, 13 kids, and so and all of them have kids. So I have tons. I can't even tell you how many cousins I have because there's just so many of us. And she took care of everybody. So when she left, we were like so didn't we were kind of lost, and I felt lost. I remember pacing around the house, the yard is pacing, going around in circles, and my grandfather came and had to shake me like you gotta come back down, because I was so out of my head, out of this world, wondering how life was gonna be without my grandmother because I was so close to her. And she dreamt me, and I saw her coming around that street that we lived on in the dream, dressed in white, and she looked so beautiful. She didn't look the same age. She was actually younger. And she said, "You can stop crying now. You can stop. I'm home. I'm home, and I'm not away from you guys. I'm here. I'm still here. But I'm in a better place, and I can take care of you guys. I'm better from here," basically, is what she said. And even that was also a catalyst to tell me to let me know that when you die, you don't go to no hell. There's no hell for me, my little brain. I'm like, okay. So there was much more going on, and I've always been a seeker, even more so after that and after those experiences. And then I came to Toronto to live with my mom a couple of years after, joined the church, her church, and sang in the choir with her. Um, and I told her about the experiences that I had, and because she wasn't there with me, it was hard for her to understand. I guess in my mind, I think it was hard for her to wrap her head around these things happening to me, especially from people that we knew, you know. So she didn't believe me. Actually, she didn't believe me, and that built resentment towards my mom.
So
That
what did she, Moya, what didn't she believe?
that those experiences, that sexual abuse situation happened to me. um I didn't get what I thought I was going to get from her. I didn't receive at that time, from what I experienced. She might feel a different way because she feels a different way about it, but that's just what I felt. And so it created for me a little bit of this, here we go again, I can't really trust um, talking to people about these situations because they probably won't believe me, you know. So I've carried that for the longest time, and it made me very angry. And so I was carrying a lot of anger with me because of the fact too that she wasn't around as much as my grandmother was, and my dad wasn't around. So that did affect me growing up as well, and I carried that for the longest time. Now, after I left her home, when I moved here to Toronto, I left about a year after and got my own place, and I've been living on my own since, until I found my partner. But our relationship is one where I feel, I mean, and a lot of people probably can relate to this. Like I said, I feel more of that motherly relationship with my grandmother. And I still do. Like, I talk to my grandmother all the time. You know, I talk to her spirit all the time. And with my mom, it's an interesting relationship. I love my mom. Don't get me wrong. I love my mom, but the relationship for sure is not the typical mother daughter relationship. And but I'm not blaming her. It's just what it is. It is what it is. So I left, and I decided that I want to pursue music, and I was studying at Seneca College at the time here in Toronto, travel and tourism, because I knew that I wanted to travel. I love traveling, and I love exploring and experiencing different places. I'm that girl. I always want to jet set and go to different places. And so I felt that travel and tourism, because my family thought that music was not gonna be something that I could really rely on. Not everybody would makes it in music, and so it was just like maybe I should just take it up as a hobby. And I believe that. It was like, I respect my family, so I was like, okay, so I'll go to school for travel and tourism and get the safe paycheck and live my life that way, because a lot of them are professionals too. And so I'm like, okay, they're doing well, and so maybe I should just do that. So I went to Seneca to study for travel and tourism. And while I was there, that first year, I recognized it wasn't on a soul level. It just wasn't. It wasn't feeding my soul, and I knew I was only there to feed the pocket and starve. That's going to starve my soul, and I wasn't about that life.
So you
I don't
really
want to just
realized that at
feed
that
the.
age.
Right, I knew that. I knew that. I was about what? At that point, I was what, 19 years old, going into my 20s. And I said, no, I don't want to just feed my pocket and starve my soul. I want to feed my soul. And music does that for me. Even from after, especially to when my grandmother died, music was such a savior for me. I would just put music in on my headphones on and get lost in the music. And that
Sorry,
became
that sounds like a book that you could have. And it
ah,
says, feed my pocket but starve my soul.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
feeding my pocket but starving my soul.
my soul.
You think about how many people are doing that
I know.
because of fear.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry, so carry on.
No, go ahead. It's all good. So I recognized that, and I decided, I'm gonna pursue my music. And so I dropped out of college and went head on into music, and it's been a struggle, but it's been so fulfilling for me personally. Um, and it's been music ever since, full time music. I was working like three different jobs to pay the bills, as you say, but music was it for me. And then when I realized too that I could find ways to make music, I especially because I was dating a lawyer at that time, and he said to me, "Ammoye, you have talent. You don't need to do all of these other things. Just focus, put all of that energy into what you love to do." And that was the gift he gave me from that relationship, because I dropped all these other jobs that I was doing, running up and down, and always tired at the end of the night, because I would work in the day, work in the evening, and then work in the night. And then when I had the time, I could give it to my music. And he was like, no, you need to just focus on your music. And so I did. I dropped all those other jobs, and music has been it for me ever since.
So you
And
followed your heart, you listened
I
to
followed my
yourself.
heart. Yeah. And thank God I had people like that partner at that time that was able to encourage me to do exactly that. And so I've been doing music professionally, and it's garnered me now at five. This year I got my fifth Juno nomination. The Junos in Canada is like the Grammys to the States. So it's the highest accolade that you can achieve here in Canada.
High five, girl.
Virtual high five, yes. And so music has done a lot for me, and it's taken me around the world. So I was going into travel and tourism to travel, and music has taken me around around the world. So funny how spirit does that for you. And so yeah, and now a huge thing happened for me now, with even pulling me more into my spirituality. About now, I would say that was about 5 years ago.
Is that
This
when you
happened.
lost your voice?
Yes.
Yes.
So 4 or 5 years ago, actually 4 years ago, 4 years ago now. So time is flying so fast, but yeah, 4 years ago, I, I used to back right before this happened. I was dating. I was in a relationship at that time. After about for 11 years we dated, and because I knew 10 years we dated. I knew him from my basically when I first got here, and then it was after that that I met the lawyer. But that relationship, I had to end it because I recognized that things were I was just in it because it was safe and comfortable for me. and I was scared to be alone
And how many people
because
do
of what
that
had
as
happened.
well?
Yes,
That they just settle once again because of fear.
exactly. And
And
I
it's
was
about
that
the
fearful.
pocket again, isn't it? So
Exactly.
if they had, I've played a game. If you had $1 million, and you ask the
Exactly.
audience, if you had $1 million
Would you?
in your pocket, would you be with the person you're with now?
And I knew I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been. So I decided to break that relationship off, and he was devastated. One of the reasons why it took me so long to was because I knew that this would be devastating for him. And my fear of being alone and coming out of that safe space with him, especially being with a male that I felt safe with because of what I'd experienced before coming here when I was younger with different men coming into my life that I thought I could trust, and then certain things happening. So being in that relationship with him and feeling safe and feeling that even though it might not be the most, how do I say it? I don't, it, he,
It
he
just
wasn't the
wasn't
most
for you.
ambitious person, and I wanted a lot more out of life. So his goals were different from mine, you know, and I had to make a decision. And then the just the love situation. I mean, I loved him, but I wasn't in love with him anymore at that point. And even though I was fearful of being alone, I decided that I had to leave. And when I did make that decision to leave, it and seeing how we reacted as well, and this change for me, it was like another traumatic thing for me. You know, I didn't handle it as well as I thought I was gonna handle it, but I'm happy that I did do it because that fear, that initial fear, pushed me. And I guess this is what, obviously this is what the universe and spirit was doing for me, was allowing me to face that fear, you know. And I was in that apartment at 3575 Bathurst at that time, and I fell in love with that apartment because being alone in that apartment gave me so much strength. And then because it brought me, I was alone and all I was facing was just myself and spirit.
So it brought you back to yourself.
Exactly.
So you'd
At night,
forgotten who he
that
was.
I'd forgotten. Exactly. And I remember too, right after he had left and I was alone in that apartment, I wouldn't sleep without the lights off. I was so scared of the dark at that age. I know it sounds great. It's crazy, but I was so afraid of the dark. And spirit, it's just funny how spirit works. But eventually, as I was going on, I lost my fear of the dark, and I started sleeping, testing it out, and sleeping without the lights on, and I got more courage, and now I'm fine with the lights out at night. I sleep peacefully and fine without the lights on. But something profound happened during that time as well. During that relationship, he loved to smoke not cigarettes, but he used to love smoking cannabis. And of course, because we were together for so long, um, before that I was so, because as I told you, I grew up in the church, so those things for me, I would be like, oh, no, that's not for me. And because I felt guilty that I would be going against my family. But eventually I did start smoking cannabis with him, and I enjoyed it because for me, my experience smoking cannabis is that it brought me, it was another channel for me to get through to spirit. My experience. I can only talk from my experience. It was like a meditative thing for me, smoking it. Everything just became, in my eyes, came clearer. Like I would just be so introspective, and things would just, a lot of aha moments would come to me, and things I'd be thinking about would just all come together. And I'm like, oh, this is what cannabis is doing for me. And so I got even more addicted to smoking cannabis because of that reason. So much so that I think I started relying on it a little bit, maybe too much. And this is probably why Spirit did what they did, because obviously my music is everything to me. I love music. I don't. It's such a huge part of my life. It's done so much for me. But smoking the cannabis started to affect my voice. Started to affect my voice so much so that I developed nodes on my vocal cords. And I would try to sing. I'd be singing before singing at my shows, and all of a sudden my voice is doing things that was foreign to me. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? My best wasn't coming out anymore. My best wasn't coming out anymore. I actually felt like something was holding onto my throat like this. But it was still hard for me to put down the cannabis. And so I said to Spirit,
it's also another beautiful thing. I love that. My best is not coming out anymore. How many people
it really wasn't.
It's not coming out at the moment?
Exactly. We go on and we go on
hiding
thinking
behind cannabis or hiding behind relationships. I'm loving this. Okay, so tell me more.
And so I said to Spirit, because at the time, like I was saying to you before, I was so relying. I was so, it became like a crutch to me. It started becoming a crutch. And even though my voice was being affected, I still didn't put the two and two together yet. But then it did. Like something hit me, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably the smoking of the cannabis." But I loved it so much. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I tried to get off of it, and it was very hard at that time. And so I said to Spirit, "Okay, Spirit, I'm going to ask you to please help me stop smoking this cannabis." And so when it just started getting worse and worse, where I would try to sing and nothing was coming out. It basically, my voice shut down. Like I felt like choke, like something was, every time I tried to sing, it would be like something was holding on to my throat. And so I asked Spirit, and we talked to Spirit about it. I spoke to Spirit about it, and I had to go to a voice coach, and they said, yes, you have to put that down. And even though it was hard, somehow, that day I decided, okay, this is going to be my last day to smoke. And I have not looked back since. Spirit was able to give me something where that urge, that dependency that I was having on just disappeared. And I was able to not even feel for it. I didn't, Jones for it is the word that they would use. I didn't have that urge at all. Somehow, miraculously, I think it's a miracle, really, that because I was so addicted to it. All of that gone. And then I had to go on voice rest for a year.
During that time, no talking really, Ammoye, during that time.
I could talk, but talk very quietly. Because another thing I should say is I was that girl that loved to shout. Because of what I experienced back home, my grandmother was also a shouter. She was a strong lady, and not just my grandmother, everybody that I knew back home in Jamaica, they shout when they talk. You would think that they're angry, but they're not angry. They're just passionate. And so I would talk that way, and when I was angry, it would come out even more aggressive. And that's all I knew. It's all I knew, really, until I know now that I know I'm so just a different person. I feel like I was a walk-in or something. Like that old person died, and because of how I used to be, a shouter. And if I got upset at anybody, they would know, just stay away from Ammoye, because I'm small, but that voice is huge. It's like thunder coming out. They would be scared when I would talk, because it would just be so aggressive. And so like I knew how to get people's attention with just using my voice, being loud and overpower them. And I was that girl. Oh my God. Just thinking about it, I'm like, wow, Ammoye. Yes, but I was that. And so what Spirit did taking away my voice. When I talk, I could only, as soon as I would try to shout, it would just shut down. And so I started learning, adapting, changing, transforming my voice from what it was to what it is now. I would just speak softly. I had no choice but to speak softly. Because if I tried to elevate it, nothing. It would just go, nothing would come out. So I was on voice rest for a whole year. And during that time, and like I said, I was now living on my own as well. So all of this was happening, and I had no partner. My only partner was myself, my higher self, spirit. That was who I had. And I fell in love with spirit during that time because all of my fears, they helped. Spirit was helping me, and I was talking more with spirit, and spirit was helping me get through and over these challenges, these fears that I felt were so big before. I was just one by one, I was just knocking them down.
You found your inside voice.
I found my inside voice, and it gave me so much confidence. I looked at the situation with my mom. I started looking at the situation with my mom differently as well, and spirit started sending me teachers that I could learn from. I remember one of the reasons why I was asking spirit to send me teachers and people that were not in the religious space, because for me, religion kind of turned me off a little bit. But I grew up in the Pentecostal church, and they were against the music that I was making. So that, again, built up another resentment towards the church because they thought that I was singing for the devil and I wasn't singing for God. But I knew that this was not true, because when I'm writing my music, I would climb up into the trees. I started doing this when I was a kid back home. One of the things I love to do is to be out in nature. When I'm out in nature, I see and hear things that nobody could tell me. This wasn't coming from source, God. And the music that was coming out too. I felt like I didn't know what it was, but I know now that it was channeling. I was channeling music. Because sometimes some of the music that I've written, I go back and I look at the words, and it's things that's happening, that's going on now. But during that time,
sorry to interrupt you. That's what I want you to let the audience know about those beautiful, beautiful words of that song that came out.
The light.
The light.
The light came out.
Don't forget, I really want you to tell them all those words.
Yes. So right around that time when I started asking for teachers, because my voice was taken away. I started breaking out in hives all over my body. And then I started hearing this high tone pitch ringing in my ears. My eyes started twitching. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening to my body? I feel like I'm breaking down. I feel like everything is falling apart. My body's breaking down. Am I dying? What's happening to me? And spirit, somehow I knew from the inner voice that I was going through awakening symptoms. Then they sent to me through one of my friends. She said, I was telling her about what I was experiencing. And she goes, yeah, it sounds like, awakening symptoms. Have you ever heard of Cryon? And I'm like, Cryon? And she goes, yes, he channels through Lee Carroll. And when I heard the concept of that, at first, the old me would be like, before that point, would be like, oh no, that doesn't sound like anything that I would hear from the church. The church would say don't mess with that stuff. That stuff is just not from God. But when she said that to me, I was so open. Something in me, at that point, I was ready. And so I she sent me a video of a channeling with Cryon, and Cryon kept coming into my life, changed my life forever, because I started hearing things that I would think about when I used to smoke the cannabis, and it would take me to some spaces that I would start thinking. Cryon started bringing out these truths that I personally could not deny. It just my mom and everybody else that I grew up with were so against it, but for me it resonated. It felt like truth for the first time. All that seeking that I've been seeking, knowing that there was more, I finally found somebody that was talking about that, and also confirmed about these awakening symptoms. And I felt better. I didn't go into fear about my voice going away, because the old me would have been like, oh my God, go into more fear. Oh my, I'm losing my voice. Am I ever gonna go sing again? And it would just go into a downward spiral because I was that girl. But Cry On helped me, Spirit, because of the Spirit sending him into my life, showing me that everything is within yourself. Trust what is coming out of you, your heart, your higher self is speaking through you. And so these things that you're hearing, it's not you going crazy. It's not just the mind. Trust what's coming out. And I started doing that more and more and following the guidance of what I was hearing from my higher self. And my voice came back stronger than ever. And during that year, my writing even evolved more. And the first song that I was able to write during that time was called The Light. I just heard the light. And so I took out my pen because I write. I don't type. I write my stuff out. I love to write. And so I took my pen and I have so many songbooks because of that reason. I write through my songs. And The Light came out. And the song talks about finding and discovering that light inside of you. And then when you find that light, which is your higher self, which is the God source within you, which is the divine inside of you, you express that to the world. And that became the first and the title track for the album, my first solo album, because I've worked on different projects before that with other people. Maybe that was another fear thing of mine, doing my own full-length album. But that was the birth of me writing that whole album during that time that didn't have my voice. I wrote The Light during that time, and the first song that came out was The Light, and then The Light got me a Juno nomination as well.
So can you share those words with us?
The song goes, I'll sing a little bit. I'll sing a little bit for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes, wake up feeling good. Wake up brand new. Wake up, the time is now. Things are changing up. I see the world a lot different now. Look at me, and tell me, what do you see? We are more than just a 3D image. We are light energy, observing the elements here, observing the rising of the light that will take you out. The light that will take you out. The light that will take you out the dark. Light that will take you out the dark. Light that will take you out. The light that will take you out. Light that will take you out the dark. Light that will take you out the dark. And he goes on into the second verse, but just a little bit of, but that's what the song is about.
But that is beautiful, and the resonance and the frequency of your tone absolutely touched my heart.
Oh.
So, Ammoye, I think, we all do it differently. I do it with my guides, and they give me messages, and blurp, 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 out it comes like water out of a tap.
Mm-hmm.
And you get it, and you sing it, and it's that beautiful tone. Other people do it with their artwork. Some people do it with sculpturing. Other people build buildings.
Exactly.
So we're all showing our light, but you had to lose your voice to find yourself and your light. So all those things that happened didn't happen to you. They actually happened for you.
Exactly. That's exactly.
And then what happened after you discovered Cry On?
After I discovered Cry On, my views on life, my beliefs, everything changed. I had to drop everything that I was taught, that I was conditioned to believe before. All of that changed. I saw life with new eyes. really and truly everything for me profoundly changed. I cried when I say, like, when I would listen and hear these things, and I would go to sleep so much more peaceful at night and have these conversations with spirit. Now I go into the astral plane with intention. Everything's about intention for me now. I set my intention and I go out into my day. I am the most positive human you're going to ever find. I do not go into, it's an awakening, really and truly, a transformation completely. Like I say to people that the old Ammoye died, but I didn't know it until this December, past December. I was in Alberta with my partner. He's actually from Alberta, so we go back there during the Christmas times and spend time with his family on that side. And while I was there, the past holiday over Christmas, I was getting these calls. People were calling me, saying that they heard that I passed, that I died.
Wow.
And I'm like, died? I'm alive and well. I'm out here in Alberta fine. Apparently, another artist called Ammoye, she sings gospel music, and I've worked with her before, passed away. Young girl too, like she's in her 30s or probably 40s, early 40s, if that old. But yeah, she passed away, and they thought it was Ammoye. It was me, and I came back to Toronto. I was going to working on my new album called Water, my second album, my sophomore album called Water, because of I call it, this is my rebirth since my awakening of finding the light. So now I'm speaking from that place now.
And sorry to interrupt you, when you were trying to commit suicide or thinking of committing suicide, it was in Water, and that's when you found yourself.
One of the first catalysts.
And now you've got an album, Water.
Called Water. Going back to the water.
Sorry, I just made that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. And so I came back now, and I was going to the studio to record this song called Freedom on Water. And I hired this percussionist, because for the idea that I came up with for this song Water, so for Freedom, it's just my voice, it's just vocals and percussion drums. No other instrument, just the drums and my voice. And as we were driving up, the producer that I work with, that's been recording my vocals for this album, Danny, was driving us up to the studio, and they were talking about how it's so crazy that people are thinking that I passed. We started talking about that conversation. And then Sunray is his name, that plays the percussionist. Sunray goes, Ammoye, because that was the death, metaphorically, of the old you coming into this new Ammoye. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It just clicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Absolutely. Because this is exactly how I feel about this new me, I call it. You know? Is that that
happened in 2020.
That happened in 2020.
That happened to a lot of us in 2020, Ammoye. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of the Great Awakening.
Yeah. So, he said that, yes, you just confirmed that for me, and because I've been thinking that, and so to hear that from somebody else is randomly, even though I know none of these things are random, it's just how spirit works. As long as you're paying attention to these certain situations when they come into your life, you know. And I do my best to pay attention to everything that's happening around me. I started, even when crying came into my life, I started seeing 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11. Like, it became ridiculous. I was seeing 11, 11 everywhere. So much so that I tattooed it. I never had a tattoo before. I never, and I got it tattooed on my chest. So that spirit is always with me, because crying told us why that was happening, and I found out that that was one of the reasons for seeing 11, 11 for a lot of people is their way of telling us it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up and get on our path of what we're supposed to be doing now. And it's like an activation, you know, initiation, if you will.
The pillars, it's the pillars of light. And it's a doorway to walk through.
After a session, you said that to me. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, did I say that? I see, I've forgotten.
Yeah. So I started, because now, since my awakening, and since finding my true voice, and since becoming so courageous about expressing myself from this space of knowing, now I started, like I said, I've been talking to Spirit, and Spirit has been sending me teachers in their own unique way. I And 2020 was one of those years where a lot of teachers were just coming to me, into my frequency. You were one of those people. Alba, I found Alba on YouTube somehow. It just she I don't remember how it happened, but it was on. I was searching through YouTube, and I remember the first before Alba, right before Alba was what's her name, something Cole,
Alison Co.
Alison Cole,
She's great.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm like, what is this? I think she came to me through Era of Light. Actually, Era of Light sent one of her channels, because I subscribe to Era of Light, and they send all these different messages every evening to my email, and one of them was Alison Cole, and then listening to her channeling, or session rather, or quantum hypnosis healing session, and it resonated with me, and like, I want to know more. I want to find more. I want to find out more. She didn't have enough. I went through all her videos on YouTube, and I'm like, I want to know more. I want to know more. And then this, similar to Alison Cole, is Alba Wyman. They showed up on my YouTube thing, and so I clicked on it. And normally I don't go with what YouTube suggests for me. I like to search my own things, but they suggested Alba Wyman. I'm like, okay. So I clicked on Alba Wyman, and there is the discourse with Miss Jill Cole. And right away, I'm listening, and oh my God, I cried, I teared. I'm like, Ty, my partner's name is Ty. I'm like, you have to. I started sending him, like, you're sending me up. Like, you have to listen. You have to listen to this. You have to. There's so much truth. She's talking so much truth. Our guides are talking through her, and it's so much truth. Resonated with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to connect with this lady. I have to connect. I just felt so connected to you after watching all of the discourse, because I went through every single one. I would just be here on my beautiful couch, and I'd be listening to everything and watching you and glued to you and what was coming out of you. And I said, I have to connect with this lady. I want to connect with this lady. So I searched you on Instagram. I started following your pages. I found 2 pages, and I didn't know which one was real, because on Instagram, people like to act like they're certain people. So I'm like, I don't know if it's a real one, but I'm going to follow you. And then I sent you an email, and I said I wanted to, if it resonates with you, I would love to do a reading with you. And I didn't hear from you. And I'm like, okay, Spirit. I was like, okay, Spirit, I'm going to give it to you. And if it's meant to be, then I will hear from Miss Jill Cole. And it went along, and I'd actually forgotten about it a little bit. And I was still listening to Alba. I still listen to Alba's sessions. Every time they come in, I listen to her sessions. And I didn't hear from you, so I allowed Spirit to work and do their magic and do whatever needs to be done. And out of the blue, I'm sitting here on my couch. Well, I don't remember what I was doing that night, but I was here. And bing, my phone goes off, and I look. And it's a message from Jill Cole on Instagram. You sent me a message on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, Ty, you're not going to believe. I was so excited. I'm like, Ty, you're not going to believe it. Who's on my Instagram messaging me right now? And he's like, oh, I'm like, Jill Cole. He was like, wow. And so I sent him back a message. I'm like, is this the real Jill Cole? Is this? Because I was so excited. And, yeah. The walking. So I was like, oh my God, I wonder if this is real. Right away, I'm like, I wonder if this is real. And I sent you a message, and you're like, yeah, this is me. And this is me. And you apologized for not getting back to my email, because I said I'd sent you a message, and you're like, yeah, you were traveling with your family, I believe is what you said. And so now you put that down. You were focusing too on your book and whatever. Long story short, though, we did set up a session, and in that session, you told me about the 1111 without me even mentioning that to you, that you guys came through. Yes, and you said that the 1111 was a portal. And I get to, when I see 1111, and it confirmed that for me too, because when I see 1111 around anything that I'm doing, I know I'm this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so you said, this is a portal. They're telling you to tell me this, that when I see it, it's my opportunity to walk through one of the 11s, walk through that door, and then look around, feel around. If it feels right for me, then I can stay in and follow that. If not, then I can walk up the other 11, walk up to the other 11 door, and go on about my business or whatever. So you did confirm that for me in that session, yes, about the 11:11. And
Wow.
here we are again, having this interview. You've been instrumental in my
And
path.
so, where to from here with you? So, spirit and death and expansion, everything. What do you see death as after experiencing that with your granny?
Oh, I believe that we are spirit on this plane, this earth plane ship, whatever you want to call it, having a human experience, right, in this body. But when we do transition, I call it, because I don't believe in death, because we don't die, right? The flesh dies, but our spirit lives on. We go back home. We go back on the other side of the veil, which is the real reality. That is the real reality. This is just in an illusion. It's just the matrix. Some people call it the matrix. This is just a chance for us to learn things, for the soul to experience things and elevate and transform and evolve as a soul. But when you transition and you go to the next side, then you go back to the real you, spirit, which is interdimensional, multidimensional, experiencing different multiple lives in different planes. So you just never die. And she's still connected to me. All of anybody that I've ever known that has passed, I believe, is still alive and well, having their experiences in the real world, the heavens, if you will. And what we are here suffering and mourning, we are the ones going through that part of it. But they are in a better place, for sure, assisting us from that side.
You. So, Ammoye, if you could go back to the 10-year-old, the 14-year-old Ammoye, knowing what you know now, what would you say to her?
I would say, oh my gosh, baby girl, don't you stress about anything. I feel like I wasted so much time during those years worrying, fretting, being angry about things, when really those things, everything that I experienced, made me the person that I am. They made me more courageous. They gave me insight, understanding, inner standing. Those things happened, like you said, for me, not to me, but to make me be more of now a teacher, if you will, if I was to come in contact with anybody that have experienced those things that I can relate to, because I've had those experiences, I'm able to tell them and help them deal with those situations because of from where I stand now, and how I see that how these things have changed me for the better, really, and made me a better soul, a better human being. So I would say, just don't worry about these things. Just brush them off, and you've volunteered to come here to help those souls as well with those experiences, and help yourself get more, like I was saying, just more understanding and understanding of those things, to be able to help somebody else. And it helps with my music as well.
So how do those young girls get closure with those men?
For me, it's about forgiveness. I've learned I had to forgive, because carrying that resentment, that hate, that anger was destroying me. And for the longest time, it came out in my anger and treating people, taking it out on people that did not deserve it, because I didn't deal with it. And so when you carry those things and you spew it out irresponsibly on all these people and on all these relationships, it hurts them, and so the problem becomes even bigger, because you're affecting these people in a negative way. And so for me to stop affecting people this way, because I know for me, I want to leave people better than I met them, not the opposite. It had to be through forgiveness. First, forgiving myself for blaming myself, thinking that I allowed these things to happen to me. I had to forgive myself because I was young. I didn't know these things were foreign to me. And so it was not my fault, first of all. It was not my fault. So I had to forgive myself for beating myself up for those experiences, and then forgiving the ones who've hurt me and let it go. It's not about doing it for them, but doing it for me. So I can be more of the person that I choose to be, to open up now, allow myself to open up now for spirit to be able to have a safe and a clear channel to come into. Because all those things block you from your own blessings. And I don't want to be that person blocking myself from my blessings. I had to let it go and forgive. And that is my closure. I don't wait for them to give me closure. I give myself closure so that I can open myself up to the good and great and wonderful things that Spirit has in store for me.
To be free, to be
Be free.
on the
Freedom.
water, because we are water.
Exactly.
We are all so much water.
Exactly.
And when you hold on to the pain and you left holding and all your cells are full of holding,
Yeah.
then there isn't room to bring in the new.
No flow. It's not flow. It's stagnant. Blocked. Yeah. And I lived that for the longest time. And I'm just happy that Spirit woke me up. Woke me up with all those things that they put me through was to wake me up more and more. Wake me up more and more to where I am. And I'm still getting woken up to more things.
So what can you tell the audience today? What kind of message would you like to leave them with about life in the so-called troubled times that we are going through?
Mm-hmm. What I would say is spend more time getting to know who you are and not so much time looking outside of yourself. I would say go more so within and be comfortable with going within, because you are the safest place that you should land on, not outside. So if it's not safe for you to go within yourself, then there's a problem, because you should be loving yourself more. And how do you do that? Is spending time with self. And then Spirit is able to then speak to you from that space. And because that's what happened for me. And so for me, I would say go within, spend more time seeking to hear that voice that comes from within and get that validation from within, not outside of yourself. And when you find that safe, and you've discovered that and remember that safe space within you, then everything else starts to look different, feel different, and you'll see things differently. Everything starts to just fall into place, and it will change your life. It changed mine forever, and I'm still changing. I'm still growing. I'm still evolving. But I would definitely say people say it's meditation, whatever you want to call it. Just spend that time to just be still with yourself. Allow that voice to come through and not be afraid of it. Allow it.
And I think that's excellent. And it brings us full circle to the conversation we had just before we started recording this and going live as such, was about the value that we place and give to another because of the time, because of the breath. And now you've just said about spending the time with yourself. So it really comes back to how much you value the self. So are you prepared to have the quiet time? You have to start valuing, know that you have value.
Exactly. Exactly. Don't be busy being busy. Stop being busy being busy. Everything will get done when it's supposed to get done. Trust me, I know it will get done when it's supposed to get done. But if you neglect and you keep on pushing you down to fulfill all these responsibilities in life, then you're doing yourself a disservice, for sure, for sure. So find that time. If it's just you going out for a walk, because I know that's how my meditation started, and I didn't even know that was what was happening. But I love to walk out in nature. I love to go by the water. I love the water so much. I grew up. My grandfather was a fisherman, so he gave me that gift of taking me onto the water, out to the water, and it still stays with me today. I live in the city, but we find the time to walk down all the way down to the water, and we spend a lot of time out in nature, and you hear when I say you hear things differently when you just do those things and you spend time in nature. Something just awakens and you're able to hear things and sense things and feel things and see things different. Even the dogs, watching the dogs these days, it's like another world. These dogs and their personalities, the birds, everything just seems and looks so different. I fall in love every day. I fall more and more in love with life every day now. Yeah, everything is so sacred and beautiful now.
And the more you look behind you, what have you got?
Exactly. Water. More water. Right? Me and Ty and I were at Home Sense last year. I mean, we're still in lockdown, but they had stores open with a little bit of a capacity. You can go in and pick up stuff. And I saw this, and I'm like, oh, this is coming home with me. This is coming home. And then when we did our session, you were like, at the end of the session, you were like, Ammoye, uh, what is that picture behind you? And I'm like, oh, I'm not sure what it is. It's a dock, because one of my dreams is to own a cottage home on the water one day. So that is one of my, little things I'm asking spirit for and working towards. And so this helps me with my visualization. And then you said to me, what is that picture? I'm like, oh, it's a dock. I love being on the dock. I love being by the water. And you're like, that is Wanaka. Is that how you pronounce it?
Wanaka. Wanaka.
Wanaka. This is my home, you said. That's my home. And I'm like, oh my God, Spirit. I just can't with you right now, Spirit. I can't. I cannot with you right now. Is that this is their way of confirming that we were going to meet.
There you go.
Yeah. So this is like a synchronicity. I watch for the synchronicities, and that was another confirmation that this is your home. And I'm doing this.
I know. You visited Wanaka. No. I visited this interior design store.
So this is how spirit works in my life these days, with these synchronicities, and then here we are connected. I love it.
So how do people get to follow you? And because you've got so much wisdom, and I love your songs, I love your voice. So if somebody wants to get your music, listen to you, support you, how do they get hold of you?
Oh my God, that would be such an honor for me to be able to. Yes, thank you for this opportunity. Mm, they can find me on my website, ammoye.com, AMMOYE.com. I'm more active on Instagram, and that is under my handle is Ammoye's Music. So AMMOYES Music. It's also the same handle on Twitter and Facebook, my fan page. And email also is Ammoye's Music. So AMMOYES Music at gmail.com. Same thing for Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and just ammoye.com.
I mean, that is just fabulous. So with the Juno Awards, so you get nominated and then you wait. How does that work?
Actually, we just celebrated, went through that last week, and I didn't win. But you know what I won from that situation? The publicity. My face was everywhere. And so I always see the cup half full, not half empty. I know Spirit has my day when I'm supposed to take that trophy home. But my trophy right now is the opportunity to get more visibility and more awareness, that people can know that I am out there. And that was what the Junos gave me, especially this year, because I was, for the first time, was able to perform on that stage and have a bigger access to a wider audience. So I won in that way.
And I mean, I still absolutely love those words. I mean, those words are what it's all about with the light.
Yes, my
So
portal
do
of
you
light.
have those lyrics that are actually written, and are they on your Instagram?
Oh, that's a good idea. Actually, I have clips of me performing it, but not written out. I can definitely, I should probably. That's a great idea. I will do that actually. I will write out the lyrics and post it on my Instagram
Yeah,
and my
please
other.
do that so that we
Yes,
can
I
see
will.
them, because those are the words I think that will resonate so much because they're actually so uplifting.
Thank you, thank you. And that is one of my intents with my music is to all my songs uplift people with that with the music and allow spirit to work through me and heal whoever chooses to listen and or watch my music and hear my performances. They receive the healing that is appropriate for them through spirit using the music.
Well, not only would I like to thank you, but I would also like to thank Ty
Oh, tie
for
tie.
allowing to share this time.
Yes, I know, right?
Yeah. So that was just so fabulous. And I look forward to chatting again.
Yes, me too. I'm excited. And I'm excited for you and congratulations on the discourse. Can you pass my discourse over there on the table, babe? Because I can't wait. I can't wait. And a quick story is I ordered this when it first came out. And apparently, I'm like waiting. I'm like, where's my book? Where's my book? Where is my book? It took a while. And then I called up Amazon and they're like, well, they said it's delivered. It was delivered. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I didn't receive my book. Apparently, it did come and somebody stole it
Oh,
from from downstairs. Yeah. So they left the package and somebody took up the package and left with the package.
or maybe they
And
need
so
it.
they needed it. That's exactly what me and Ty said. Oh, they needed that book. Whoever took that book obviously needed the wisdom of that book. So I wasn't mad. They sent me another copy. And so here it is. I have my discourse and I can't wait to see you in person in Wanaka, where you get to sign it and autograph it. You and Alba, I can't wait. I can't wait.
But I think what we should do is set up a retreat, and then you can come and also sing for us on the dock.
You know I'm there. Just
I
say
mean,
the word and I'm
that's going to
there.
be fantastic. We're definitely going to do that.
Yes, yes,
I'm going to invite Alba. I think definitely Alba um,
yes.
will be back. I can't speak for her, but I know she
Yeah.
loves New Zealand. And
Mm-hmm.
we're also thinking, well, I'm thinking of some stage taking people as well to sacred, to I call it Sacred
Right.
Hill, Castle Hill,
Ah,
because now with that initiation stone, it's now an activation stone,
I'm all about that.
and people will be activated, those that need to be. So there's
Right.
so much ahead. There's so much excitement.
I
It's sort of
know.
like, woohoo!
Exactly. I'm excited to get up every day to see what is next. What's gonna happen next? Even this interview, like I'm like, wow, today's my interview with Julie. You don't know how excited I was to just sit down and talk with you today. So excited.
Really? No,
Yes,
this is just
absolutely.
me.
Yeah, you are. You have no idea. You have no idea. But I'm sure one day you will. You will recognize just how powerful you are, and what, and the fact that Spirit is using you.
I just
It's
find that quite amusing.
amazing.
My husband finds it even more amusing. Well, these people ought
He's
to be
dating a
free.
legend. He's dating a legend. Okay, he's blessed. He's dating
Oh,
a
so
legend.
funny. Well,
Yeah.
listen, lots and lots of love. Thank
Right
you
back at you.
so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank
And
you for your time. Mwah, 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 mwah. And to your audience as well. Thank you so much.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much.